Many people have Ouija boards stashed away in closets, gathering dust and barely touched. Most probably haven't even used them. I discovered Ouija boards when I was 16, and when I asked my mom if we had one, she revealed it was buried deep in the closet with old board games. This closet was in the basement, next to the laundry room, a cramped space full of my parents' forgotten things. Intrigued and a bit superstitious, I persuaded my mom to help me dig through the clutter without disturbing her meticulous organization. After some searching, we unearthed an old dusty box labeled Ouija, adorned with a faded image of two hands guiding the planchette. The box was tattered despite my mom's claim of it being barely used. Eager to test it out, I texted a few friends to join me over the weekend. I wanted to heighten the thrill by being home alone. Liam, 17, with his car, picked up Jack and came over around 9 p.m. It was pitch dark outside and my parents were away for a few nights. My younger brother Adam, who was 2 years younger, was also home, so I invited him to join us. We set up in the loft, my converted bedroom. We turned off the lights and placed a flashlight in the corner, aimed at the board. All four of us sat around it, hands on the planchette, and began asking questions. With no prior experience, we started with basics. I asked, if there's someone there, move the planchette. To our surprise, it slid to the word yes. Adam asked, how old are you? And the planchette drifted to 67. Though I suspected someone was moving it, we all kept the pretense alive, taking turns asking questions. I asked, are you a demon? And the planchette moved to yes. We laughed, knowing one of us was likely messing around, but then the flashlight flickered off. The laughter died instantly as fear took over. Who turned it on? Someone asked, but none of us had touched it. The flashlight was in the corner, and despite our attempts, it wouldn't turn back on. I flicked on my bedside lamp and saw the sheer terror on my friends' and Adam's faces. That's the worst timing for a battery to die, I said, though a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't a mere coincidence. We abandoned the board and fled to the backyard, unnerved by the experience. When everyone had left and Adam was asleep, I knew I had to sleep in my room. I packed away the Ouija board and brought it downstairs, unsettled by the thought of it being in my room. As soon as I turned off the light, I tried to fall asleep quickly, but just as I was drifting off, a noise from the closet jolted me awake. I flicked on the bedside lamp and went to investigate. The walk-in closet where I kept my clothes had a light switch on the outside. I turned it on and looked at the bottom of the door. Shadows of 2 feet were cast there. Panicked, I screamed for Adam and dragged him to my room. When we checked, the light was still on, but the shadows had vanished. Inside the closet was a wooden box I had made in arts and crafts, now toppled with its contents spilled out. There was no draft strong enough to cause that. I spent the night in my parents' bed and then in the spare bedroom for a week, too scared to return to my own. Even when I did, I never forgot that night. I haven't touched a Ouija board since. Music. Fast forward to my mid-20s, I'd never used a Ouija board, but my friend George was briefly seeing a girl named Mandy who was into exploring supposedly haunted places. One night, he invited me to join them and her friend Carly on a trip to an abandoned house reputed to be haunted. The promise of Carly's cuteness made me agree, even though I wasn't keen on the idea. George picked me up around 11 p.m. and we drove to the park to meet Mandy and Carly. Mandy, who had been to the house before, mentioned it was high in activity, a term that struck me as amusing since I didn't believe in the paranormal. Mandy's bag revealed her plan, a Ouija board and candles. We parked on a dark street with no streetlights, an open field on one side and trees on the other. The house was gated, so we walked through the woods to the backyard. Mandy climbed through a high window, and we followed suit. Inside, the house was decrepit, untouched for decades. It was eerily silent except for our footsteps on the creaky floors. Old portraits from the 50s lined the walls, hinting at the house's history. A couple who likely died with no family to claim it. Mandy set up the Ouija board and lit candles, diving into spiritual questions. At first, the planchette remained still. Then it spelled out, "Hello." I exchanged glances with George, who shrugged. Mandy asked the spirit's name, and it spelled out Gregory, followed by 30 years when she asked how long it had been dead. I was skeptical, convinced Mandy or Carly was manipulating it. We played along until a loud thump echoed from upstairs. We froze and let go of the planchette. Mandy insisted it could be Gregory, but George and I were already on edge. We decided to investigate the noise. The planchette moved to yes when we asked if Gregory had made the sound. George and I thought it was a prank, expecting to find someone trying to scare us. Upstairs, the footsteps continued, leading us to a decayed bedroom with a closet door slightly ajar. We heard a clear exhale from inside. Fearful, we rushed downstairs to find the girls gone, candles and the Ouija board left behind. We bolted through the window and raced to the car. George's calls to Mandy went straight to voicemail. She had blocked him. We never saw her again, and we speculated wildly. Perhaps a trap or an elaborate prank, or maybe something supernatural. Music. In October 2015, during my junior year of high school, I was deep into my horror phase. With Halloween approaching, I'd been reading stories about Ouija boards and their eerie encounters. My curiosity piqued, so I ordered a Ouija board from Amazon and waited for a night when our parents were away to try it. I convinced my little sister to join me. We sat at the dining room table, dim lights casting eerie shadows. Both of us held the planchette, and I asked questions. Initially, it felt awkward and humorous. I moved the piece around, trying to scare her, but she knew it was me. After a few minutes, we grew bored. My sister wanted to stop, but I persuaded her to try a little longer. Eventually, we gave up and went to our separate rooms. Later, around 1 a.m., when my sister was asleep, I returned to the dining room, dimmed the lights again, and tried the board solo. As I held the planchette, hoping for a response, I heard footsteps from upstairs. Thinking it was my sister, I went to investigate. The sound, accompanied by a muffled female voice, seemed to come from directly above. My older brother's room, who was away at college. My sister wouldn't be in there. I crept up the stairs and the voice grew louder as I neared my brother's room. I put my ear to the door and heard the voice of an older woman, repeating, "Grandma's here, Georgie." It was unmistakably my deceased grandmother's voice. Terrified, I flung open the door, turned on the light, but the room was empty. The voice had stopped. I raced back to my room, locked the door, and hid under the covers, my mind spinning in disbelief. Unable to sleep, I prayed before finally drifting off, still haunted by the vividness of that night. Even 8 years later, I remember it as if it happened yesterday.